Healthcare Advisory. Today's sponsor, founder Chris Kelly, and he's got several guests. Orion Healthcare Advisory provides legal, consulting, and business advisory services to physicians and healthcare facilities. The group primarily helps doctors monetize their practices by partnering with private equity firms. They also provide outside general counsel services to multiple healthcare providers and businesses. Thank you again, Orion Healthcare, for sponsoring. And to continue on, here is Deborah Jung with our invocation. She is the founder and executive director of Kids Who Care, and Henry Borbola, vice president at Sierra Bank, is leading with the national anthem.
Thank you very much. Let us pray. Father Yahweh, bless these friendships that give us rest in the middle of a busy day. Give us laughter and comfort by being present in the room. Give us wisdom and kindness in our words and in our hearts. Provide ideas and solutions and strengthen the meeting of minds and spirit. Lift us up for things greater than ourselves. For the luxury of this food, we are thankful. For Sonny's message, we are blessed. For the reflection of our purpose, we're present. And all God's people said, amen.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose rough stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Much slower.
Thank you. Please be seated. Once I receive the roster of visiting guests and Rotarians from Aurora, I will welcome them. Oh, do you have them? Okay, we're moving on. Yes. Welcome to all of our visiting friends and Rotarians. Today is a little bit of an unusual Friday, but we're going to go with it. So welcome. We very much enjoy having you with us. And now let's recite the four-way test. I'm reminding you that this is used globally as the moral code for personal and business relationships for all Rotarians. It is one of the world's most widely printed and quoted statements for business ethics. Number one, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And if ever there was a day for a newscast, I think this is it. Bill Fairley, it's time for the newscast. Tell us what's going on.
I wish we knew. Well, I feel about as welcome as monkeypox really anywhere, I guess, actually. So here we go. There once was a guy from Rotary who was not known for his poetry, but when charged with the task of doing a newscast, he committed to giving it his allery. The news right now is concerning. It seems the whole world is burning. There's war and there's strife. It's part of our life. For something really good, we are yearning. Prices are at an all-time high. The question we have is why? Gas, food, and meat, We'll soon all be on the public teat, and all we can do is sigh, oh my. The stock market's going down. Our 401ks are in the ground. Buy high, sell low. Not the way it should go. Our retirement is looking less sound. Oh dear. This summer, it's hotter than heck, and rain we've had only a speck. The ground is so hard, I no longer have a yard, and my hair is totally a wreck. But locally, the city is booming. New construction is everywhere looming. But if Sasha wins the day and runs everyone away, our booming may look like a dooming. Sports is usually a diversion. Of this, I am quite certain. But the Rangers are bad, the Cowboys are sad. To watch, I will need liquid coercion. Now, COVID has gone into hiding. It is not gone into hiding. Its incidence is upwardly gliding. It ebbs and it flows, it rebounds and grows, especially if your name is Biden. Pelosi has visited Taiwan. Many wished she had not gone. But stubborn she is, it's none of our biz. For the left, I think she's a pawn. Locally, Tim Love is expanding. He's famous for restaurant branding. No phone can come in, a jacket required for men. Methinks it's all a bit grandstanding. Our speaker, Coach Dykes, likes to win. That's a fact. Thankfully for this, he has a knack. He works that new portal, yet he is only mortal. I think he'd pay the devil for a quarterback. And finally, there once was a man from Nantucket. Oh, no, never mind. Thank you very much.
So we're back to game day. Welcome, Coach Sonny Dykes. We are delighted to have you here. Welcome, welcome. I understand practice went over a little bit and he had a media interview, so we're delighted that he made it in. I have a few quick announcements. It's already been a busy day for our Rotarians. We've had them out working at the back to school roundup. I think shift one, many of them are here today. Early this morning, Christina Judge, Karen and Larry Anfin, Andy Taft, Key Bryant, Dianelle Waters, and Shanna Saldana were over there. If for Tarrant County, they were serving 10,000 underserved students pre-K through 12. And as we speak, we've got 6 fellow Rotarians that are working the afternoon shift. So thanks to Melissa Rankin, Mark Maurer, who I think is here actually, James Emmons, Susie Emmons, Matt Jacobs, Justin McLaughlin, Jason Ray, William Johnson, and possibly Don Clegg, but I see him. So thanks to those folks. There should be a slide presentation coming up, the Rotary Club of Cittadella, Italy. You may recall several years ago, during Carlo's term, we received a Rotary Blast email from this little Italian club north of Venice. And they had a very nominal request. They wanted to know if we'd be willing to share $500 to help restore one of their beautiful small cathedrals. And the reason they selected us is because the artist, Jacopo Bassano, if I pronounce that correctly, has a very renowned work here in the Kimball Museum, and they felt a kinship with the city of Fort Worth. So we were delighted to do that. And just in the last week or so, we received an email follow-up. Here's a photo of some of the completed painting. And also there was a news article, of course it's in Italian, I couldn't quite make it out, but they did cite the relationship with the Rotary Club of Fort Worth, as well as the Rotary Club of Metz, France, and another Italian club that partnered with them as well. So we wanted to give you that update. And by the way, we have talked quite a bit about trying to make that a Rotary trip. So we'll see how the coming months or year go. And one other quick note, if you were around a few years ago, you may remember columnist and author Dave Lieber. Dave Lieber had written a book about Amon Carter. And for some of you newer members, you may not realize that Amon Carter was actually a member of this Rotary Club. So we were especially interested in the Amon Carter book, and there was an Amon Carter play that came out. And the play is going to be reappearing. It's going to be staged again at the end of August and early September. So look in the rotograph. That could be a very fun group outing, or certainly otherwise, with just friends and family. I will keep you updated. And now I wanted to mention that Judge Whitley recently signed an emergency disaster declaration for Tarrant County due to severe drought conditions. That opens avenues of reimbursement and assistance should things continue to deteriorate. Here to tell us more is Patrick Mahoney with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Service. He is part of a national fire prevention and education team in partnership with the Texas A&M Forest Service. Thank you.
Well, first off, I'll go, I'm not Patrick Mahoney. He's not here, he's a lot bigger, a lot uglier. But he was actually flying home today, so I was sitting in his place. I'm Andy Neesmith, and I'm with the Florida Forest Service. We are here as the prevention education team working on behalf of Texas A&M. And along with our team, we have a member from Kentucky, and we also have a member from Texas working along with us. But just a few highlights. The 2022 fire season in Texas right now has been trending well above the normal. So far, Texas has experienced over 6,900 fires, covering approximately 600,000 acres. There's currently around 1,300 first responders, and 900 of those are brought in from out of state. The first responders at this point have saved up to 3,500 homes. And unfortunately, 254 homes have been lost. So the above average fire weather that you're experiencing is expected to last through August and on into mid-September. The wild card during summer months, as we know, would be the impact from tropical storms or hurricanes. The rainfall from a tropical system could definitely help reduce the fire potential, but if you're on the left side of that, or what they call the dry side, it could also create some critical fire weather behind the storm. So what can you do to help us with preventing catastrophic wildfires? So the biggest thing is just help spreading the word that equipment and roadside starts are two of the biggest issues that you're having right now. But preventing any sort of human-caused wildfires is always a big help and definitely needed. So just remember that any fire that's prevented is a fire that doesn't have to be fought, which is protecting the lives of firefighters and the general public. So our current fire prevention team, who's traveling home this weekend, we've made over 1,700 contacts throughout our priority counties that we've been hitting. And we're working the rodeo here in Fort Worth tonight, so we'll continue spreading the word there. And we have an incoming team that's coming in this weekend, and I will be extending and staying with them. And we're going to be focusing down around the Austin area. And that team consists of folks from Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, and West Virginia, I believe. So, but with that, I just want to thank you for allowing us to come meet with you today and kind of share the information on prevention.
Thank you very much for that important message. I had recently attended with Kirk Driver, the district governor installation in Mineral Wells, and you could see the smoke in the horizon, and that was a couple weeks ago, and there was a lot of distress right there, a lot of folks that were experiencing, friends and neighbors, dealing with the brush fires, not even far from here. Now, I would like to introduce past President Larry Anfin for a Main Street Arts Festival announcement. Larry.
Thank you, President Sean. I'm happy to be here today to present this year's check to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth from Downtown Fort Worth, Inc. and the Main Street Fort Worth Arts Festival. As some of you may know, our club partners with DFWI to produce Main Street, and as a result, we have the opportunity to share in the event's net proceeds. This year, our club's portion of the net proceeds totals about $8,500. So I'm proud to present this check on behalf of Downtown Fort Worth, Inc., and many volunteers and sponsors who make the Main Street Fort Worth Arts Festival possible.
Thank you, Andy Taft. I saw you somewhere. I know you're here. We tremendously appreciate this partnership. You know, we have very few streams of revenue otherwise. It's our dues, it's perhaps our golf tournament or another event that we sponsor, or it's this. So thank you once again. We're delighted. And now, if I could please have Secretary Kathy Sheffield, Chief Advancement Officer with Lena Pope, for a second reading.
Thank you so much, President Sean. Before I do my second reading, I have to tell Bill I'm a little nervous next week. I do the newscast, and you did a masterful job today. So, for our second reading, we have one second reading today. The following proposed new member was submitted during the 7/29 program, July 29th program. If no objections are received through the voting process, then the proposed member will be accepted into our club. The proposed member is Deborah Peoples, founder of People's Turnout Project, classification not-for-profit, and the proposer is Charles Foster Johnson. I move her election subject to attending a new member Rotary information session.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. Deborah Peoples is now elected. Welcome. Welcome to the club. I'm not sure if she's with us today. And now, if we could have Chris Jordan for a new member introduction, along with Mr. Howard.
Thank you, President Sean. Randall Howard is one of our, well, actually our top 2022 RMBA winner. And we were talking just before, to ask what kind of an impact does winning the RMBA have on your business? And he said, instant increase in opportunity. So what we're doing really is making a difference. But in 1946, Randall's dad, Leroy, returned from World War II, and shortly after agreed to build a small set of concrete steps for an elderly lady for $40. And that was the humble start of their construction company. His dad eventually began to phase out the business in preparation for retirement. And soon after, Randall, who had worked with his dad for summers, weekends, graduated from Texas State University in 1981. But the customers just kept calling and just kept calling. So after working as an account representative at Motorola until 1983, Randall decided, with a strong customer base and established vendors, to carry on the family business. And as a dad who's got kids coming up in the family business, that's a good thing. So Randall shifted the primary focus of the business from residential to commercial contracting. Today, employment peaks about 30 to 40 workers with an annual sales of up to $13 million. That's a long way from $40. So clients include corporate giants such as Walmart, Lockheed Martin, state agencies, the Texas Department of Transportation, and the United States Department of Defense, just to name a few. In 2012, R.D. Howard teamed with Austin Commercial, E.J. Smith Construction, and ROC Construction, and were awarded the contract to tear down and rebuild Terminal A parking garage at DFW Airport. In February 2013, R.D. Howard, as a joint venture with Turner Construction, Omega Howard Joint Venture, was awarded the contract to serve as construction managers, overseeing most of the $1 to $3 billion work slated to be spent over the next 8 to 10 years at DFW Airport. That's a real long way from $40. So anyway, join with me and welcome R.D. Howard, Randall Howard, to our club. And we'd like you to say a few things interesting about yourself.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much. And needless to say, I am truly honored to be a member of Rotary. I don't know where y'all have been all of my life. I know most of you in other roles, but I'm really honored to be here. This has created a unique opportunity for my business to grow, and we want to thank you for the recognition. We're excited about all the opportunities that lie ahead, and we want to invite you all to partner with us as you see opportunities come about. We're extremely proud, lifelong Fort Worthians, but everywhere I fly, if the pilot doesn't say we're landing at Dallas, Fort Worth, I help them out. Thank you all very much.
So Randall, I do have one question for you.
Okay.
If I need a pair of steps built, we'll still get that done for $40?
I don't know about the, that'd have to be an awful small step.
Or I'm thinking about projects out at Rotary Plaza, and where have you been all of our lives? Welcome, we're delighted to have you with us, Randall. And now, I think we have some entertainment coming from Tom Law.
Ram.
Bob. Zoo.
Lickety.
Lickety.
Zoo. Zoo.
Who?
Wow. Wow.
Who?
Rip. Ram. Bob.
Who?
Lickety.
Lickety.
Zoo.
Who? Who? Wow. Bob.
Who.
Rip.
Ram. Bob. Zoo. Lickety.
Lickety. Zoo. Zoo. Who?
Wow.
Bob.
Who.
Rip.
Ram. Bob. Zoo.
Lickety. Lickety. Zoo. Zoo.
Who. Wow.
Wow.
Rip. Ram. Bob.
Zoo.
Lickety.
Lickety.
Zoo. Zoo.
Who?
Wow. Wow. Who.
Rip. Ram. Bob. Lickety. Lickety. Zoo. Zoo.
Who. Wow. Wow. Who. Rip. Ram. Bob. Lickety. Lickety. Zoo. Zoo. Who. Wow. Wow.
Fabulous. Welcome. Welcome, Sunny Guy. Welcome back to Fort Worth. As a note, our Rotarian, Mike Herman, had a couple of these yard signs printed. You are welcome to take them home. You can fight over them. But the only deal is you got to put it out before game day. That's the request. So see me after the meeting. And now let me introduce Judge Don Pearson to introduce our guest.
Thank you, President Sean. I must tell you, I was concerned. I didn't believe our speaker was here even when Sean told me he was on his way, because I was waiting for a helicopter to land on the building, and I didn't hear one. I understand he travels primarily by helicopter. Now, I want to say for much of our clubs, for those of you that I see some Baylor fans, some Tech fans, for some non-club members, for much of the history since I've been in the club, the head coach of the TCU Horned Frogs has visited and spoken to our club most every year. Remember the excitable Jim Wacker? You probably never met him, but for those of you that did meet him, you wouldn't forget the guy. Then we had the subdued Heisman Trophy winner, Pat Sullivan. Does anybody remember Pat? Okay. Then we were followed by Coach Dennis Franchione, who departed for redder pastures, I suppose. And Coach Fran, in turn, brought us Coach Gary Patterson. And Coach Patterson visited with us for most of his 21 years. So now we have our newest guest, Coach Sonny Dykes. I started to say a likable sort. I actually got to meet with Coach Dykes and Chester Grudzinski and Sid Johnson. Coach visited with us 20, 30 minutes, just an impromptu visit in his office. And so I changed that to an amicable sort. Now, keep in mind, I'm not out there going through practice. I'm sure there's some yelling, some elevated feelings and tensions out there. But nonetheless, Coach Dykes has been a part of, in fact, his family has been part of Texas football from Coach Dykes beginning in Big Spring, Texas, to his high school and college years in Lubbock, saying it's about as Texas as it gets. Yes, he coached in Ruston, Louisiana, Berkeley, and University Park, Dallas, but it seems like he belongs here. So please welcome Coach Sonny Dykes.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to say it's a real pleasure to have a chance to be here and visit with you today. It's, this is kind of a dream come true in a lot of different ways. I was fortunate enough to, in 2017, I guess you could say fortunate, January 2017, I was the head coach at Cal and I got fired. And I'd been at Cal for 4 years and had taken over a program that was going to be a big rebuilding job. And I really went there because of stability. I went because of the stability of the president and the stability of the athletic director. Well, of course, 3 months after I take the job, the president of the university retires. 3 months later, the AD gets fired. I haven't coached a single football game, and I'm in Berkeley, California, with really not an athletic director for the next 4 years. So it was a crazy time to be a coach. I was proud of the work we did there. We took over a program, we went 1-11 my first year, and we were really lucky to win that game. We won. We beat Portland State, and the only reason we beat them is really their coaching staff screwed it up. So we beat Portland State anyway. We go and go, I think, 1-5-9 wins and kind of got the thing going. Had the first pick in the NFL draft and was fortunate and really had spent the 10 years of my life outside of Texas and desperately wanted to get back. And Cal kind of made it easy for me. They fired me. And so I was fortunate enough to come to Fort Worth and work for Coach Patterson for a year in 2017 as an analyst role. And we had a good team that year. I think we were 11-3 and played the Big 12 championship. And really what it did for me, though, was open my eyes to the possibility of TCU. I'd grown up in the Big 12 and coached at Texas Tech, was part of Mike Leach's inaugural staff in 2000 and stayed till 2007. Got to see some good football and got to coach against some good teams. And at that time, the Big 12 was really Texas-centric. TCU was still not in the conference yet. That happened shortly thereafter. But got a chance to coach in the league and loved the Big 12, grew up really being around the old Southwest Conference and the Big 12. So felt like home. Well, then I came here in 2017 and really Fort Worth felt like home. It felt a lot like Lubbock without the dust storms, the really good people, great folks, just a really great place to live. And my family and I enjoyed it, had a great time here. And then I was fortunate enough to go on and become the head coach at SMU and was there 2018, 19, 20, and 21. So, when they we're going to have a change here at TCU, it was one of those deals that I just felt like it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. I just felt like this was really a special place, a special town, a special community. I think those of you that have grown up in Fort Worth and lived here most of your life probably take this place a little bit for granted. I think that happens to all of us sometimes where, we're not quite sure how good we have it. And so, after 3 years in Arizona and Tucson at the University of Arizona as a coordinator, and then 3 years in Louisiana as a head coach, and 4 years in Berkeley, California, I realized how good Fort Worth was very quickly. And my family and I loved it. We had a great time here. And then I also got to see the power of TCU, really. And I thought, at that time, I just thought this is just a really special university, has a tremendous commitment. But the best thing about Fort Worth and really TCU are the people. It's just a unique brand of people. It's very, very sharp people that think outside the box. But the best thing about being here, honestly, is the relationship and the synergy that exists between TCU and the city of Fort Worth. It's very unique. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. And that was the thing that we tried to emulate when I went to SMU and tried to kind of get the same thing going over there in Dallas. And, you know, it's like anything else, it takes time. But again, I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to come over here, and it's been a great 7 months so far. You know, I think, as most of you probably know, we had our fourth preseason practice today. So we started practice on Tuesday, and today was our second day in pads. We will have one more practice tomorrow, which will be 5 consecutive days, and then our players will get a well-deserved day off. You know, just to kind of let you know what's going on with us as coaches and our players right now, and then I'll get into a little bit of the season, just to get an idea of kind of what our guys are going through. Most of our players' alarms are set for probably 4:15, 4:30 a.m. Their alarm goes off usually by 5 o'clock in the morning. Most of our players are in the building. You have to be in by 5:45. Guys come in for treatment, come in to get taped. Breakfast begins at 5:45. At 6:15, we have a team meeting, which usually lasts for about 5 minutes. 6:20, we have a special teams meeting. It usually lasts about 30 minutes. Then we break up and go to position meetings, and they last until about 7:45, okay? At 7:45, we start pre-practice on the field. Guys start what we call a dynamic stretch and warming up. We go out, we do a walkthrough at that point, and at 8:15, we do our full team stretch. At 8:30, we start practice, okay? Typically, we practice about 2 hours and 15 minutes. About 10:45, it ends. We go in, take a shower, start watching the practice film. Players eat lunch and go home. Now, one of the things that we have our players do, and again, if you followed it, you probably have seen it, maybe on television or in the newspaper. All of our players, as soon as they walk off the practice field, one of the things they have to do post-practice is get into what we call a cold tub. So there is an ice tub that they get into, and they have to sit in there full body for 5 minutes as soon as they're walking off the practice field. So that's probably my favorite part of the day, honestly. I get to watch these grown men, big, huge guys, squeal like little kids as they get into these freezing cold tubs, and I love it. So, you know, they do that, sit in there for about 5 minutes, and then, like I said, on to breakfast. Well, as coaches, we get in there, we start watching the film. 2 o'clock, we have a staff meeting. Usually goes right up to 3 o'clock. We have a special teams meeting with our players. They've come back from their break. Usually lasts 30 minutes. Then we go straight to walkthrough. Offense begins to walk through at 3:30. Defense, we switch. We have a 30-minute walkthrough. One of them's lifting weights, the other's walking through. Goes on. All that happens till about 7 o'clock. Then we have dinner. And then at 8 o'clock, typically we have another team meeting that goes till about 9 a.m., or 9 p.m. rather. And then we meet one more time as coaches, and I usually get home around 10:30, and again, my alarm goes off at 4. So that's kind of a typical day, you know, for us right now, and, you know, kind of continues really between now and really February, because of recruiting kind of is the same type of thing. So this time of the year is obviously a busy time of year. My wife, I'm lucky, I live about 2 blocks from campus. My wife usually brings my kids. I have a 13 and 11-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. And they enjoy watching those players get in those cold tubs. And so my wife usually brings them to the end of practice, and then I'll come in and get to see the family for about 15 minutes before we're back off to work. So it's a typical day for us this time of year, and it's a busy schedule, as you all know. But it's fun. I mean, it's an exciting time, and it's a time of great optimism and excitement, really, for our players. You know, you think about it, you know, college football players work out about 300 days a year. There's some kind of something going on. They got about 65 days a year off where they're not lifting weights or running or practicing football, whatever the case may be. So, you know, you think about it, you're preparing 300 days a year for 12 guaranteed football games, and that's it. And so, you know, for us, there's an attitude that's associated with that, just the attitude of look, you're really fortunate to have this opportunity, and, we've got to do everything we can to make the most of these 12 chances to go out and prove what kind of football program we have. And really have enjoyed these players. I think that anytime there's a coaching change, that's a very, very difficult thing to go through. If you're an 18-year-old kid, typically, you choose a university for university and academic programs and all those things, but a lot of that is you choose it for the coaching staff in some ways, relationships or familiarity or a scheme or whatever the case may be. So when there's a coaching change, we have 135 players, and I walk into a room with about 120 people I've never met, and those kids have to do a great job of trusting us as coaches, and we have to do a great job of earning their trust and developing that trust, and they have to do the same thing with us and getting to know each other. And so that's a difficult process sometimes, and I got to give our young people, our players, a lot of credit for having a really positive attitude and doing really everything we've asked them to do for the last 7 months. Now, it hasn't all been perfect, but it's been really, I think we're way ahead of schedule. This is my 4th time to be a head coach in a program and take over a program, and some for different reasons. But, typically there's about an 18-month buy-in, and I'm really excited to say I felt like there's about a 6-month buy-in with this group. And so I think we're ahead of schedule. I'm excited about this team and where we're headed, and I think we have a chance to have a good football team. So it's been a lot of fun. And we'll find out more about ourselves. I think every single day, these guys reveal a little bit more to us, and we reveal a little bit more to them about who we are, and that trust and that belief in each other continues to get built a little bit day by day. So it's a process, and it's a process that's really fun to go through and rewarding to go through, and we're excited to go out there on September 2nd and play on national television against Colorado and Boulder. It's a 9 p.m. Central Time start, which is a little unusual. So we'll do some things in fall camp to try to get ourselves ready for a different clock, because normally we're going early in the morning. So we're going to have to make some adjustments and get our players accustomed to being ready to play at night. So there'll be some night practices and some things we do to reset our body clock to make sure that we're well prepared for that game. So anyway, exciting time to be at TCU. Couldn't be more pleased and excited to be here. I could give you a preview and go on for about 30 minutes, but I think the best thing to do might be to take a couple of questions, and that way I can answer some questions specifically that anybody has about what's going on right now. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Boulder's what, 6,000 feet?
Boulder's, I think it's about 5,400, I think. Yeah. So it's funny, it's interesting. So of course, when I got the job, there's several different ways to look at that. I knew it was going to be Colorado. So about February, we started talking about, okay, how do we want to handle this when it comes to altitude? So, talk to some people in the NFL. Obviously, people play in Denver, which is not quite as high, but it's close to as high. About, what do they do to prepare for elevation? Talked to a lot of other coaches, had coached against Colorado at a couple of different spots that I'd been at prior. Talked to a couple of experts really about altitude and the physiological effect it might have on your body. And really came to the conclusion that the best thing that we can do is just get our guys in really good shape and kind of ignore it. I think it's one of those things that you talk about it and it becomes a bigger deal than it really is. One of the things that we talk about as a program all the time, and I really believe this is the key to life in some ways and being happy, is things aren't really a big deal unless you make them a big deal. And, that's one thing I've learned when I was about 40 years old. I was a first-time head coach and one of the youngest head coaches in the country in my late 30s when I was at La Tech, and everything was a big deal. I mean, if it rained a little bit, or the line was a little crooked on the field, or the shoulder pads weren't right, or, everything was a big deal to me. And then I quickly learned that, man, if everything's a big deal, then you're not going to have a very rich and rewarding life. You're going to be worried about a lot of stuff that doesn't matter. And so, that's one of the things that we try to talk to our players about. Look, let's focus on things we can control. We are unable to control the altitude. And so our thing is just going to be, look, we're going to get as many players ready to play as possible. I would anticipate we play a lot of players, and that's a good thing. And I think that, that'll be probably as important as anything else, being able to, run 2 or 3 deep as we play through that game. It's a good question, though. Yes, sir.
Name, image, and likeness. Tell about the changes on that.
Say it again, the what?
Name.
Oh, name, image, and likeness, okay. Yes, sir, okay, well, just kind of a quick overview on college football, and as everybody knows, it's changing. I mean, it's a completely different game in a lot of ways than it was 3 years ago, and certainly 10 years ago, and even you go back 20, 25 years ago. First of all, we had the transfer portal, okay? And here's the way I view these things. I think they make being a college football coach difficult. I think that they create a lot of uncertainty. I think that they create a lot of doubt. But I view that as a lot of opportunity. And so that's one thing for me, when there are changes like this, I get excited, because for us as a football program, we're going to find a way, while everybody else is bitching and moaning about it, we're going to go find a way to use it to our advantage and to capitalize. And so, at SMU, when I was over there, there was some conversation about the transfer portal happening. We started to notice that back in the old days, if you transferred from one school to another, you had to sit out a year. You could file a waiver for special circumstances. And we started noticing more and more waivers were getting granted by the NCAA. And so at that point, we thought, you know what, let's pursue some of these transfers. And let's see if we can't get these guys to write a waiver, and see if we can't get that waiver granted by the NCAA for immediate eligibility. Well, over there, we had 22 players that filed waivers. We had 22 players that got an exemption by the NCAA. So really what we did is we started the transfer portal 2 years before there was a transfer portal. And so what that allowed us to do, quite frankly, is rebuild a roster that was probably, my first year we were a 5-win team, and really probably played really well to win 5. Next year we were a 10-win team, and a big part of that reason was because of the players that we were able to go and add in the portal. A big part of that was being in DFW, being in Dallas, where a lot of local kids will leave the area, go off to colleges for a variety of reasons, get there, realize that it wasn't everything they thought it was going to be, and they had a desire to get home, just like I did. I was out of state for 10 years. I would have done anything to get back. A lot of these kids feel the same way. And so we were able to kind of get some really, really good players. Shane Buechele coming over year 2 really changed our program in a lot of ways. He came over to us from the University of Texas, and we're able to have some really good teams as a result of being ahead of the portal and getting some players. Okay, now you ask about name, image, likeness. So that was then. Well, that was 4 years ago. Well, 2 years later, basically, they decided, okay, we're going to allow a one-time transfer in the NCAA and make guys eligible immediately. So what we did is, it was kind of business as usual for us. We already had a system in place. We knew kind of how to blend those guys into a team. We knew how to find players. We knew how the transfer thing worked. We knew we were kind of 2 years ahead of everybody. And so when we came over to TCU, we did the same thing. We took 16 transfers, I believe, this past year, and added some really good players to our program. Then here in the last year, since last July, I believe, name, image, and likeness now became a thing. And it's the same thing. Basically what name, image, and likeness is that college athletes can now make money off their name, image, and likeness, which I've always thought should have been the case. And the best example of that was when I was coaching at Texas Tech way back when. Jeremy Bloom was an Olympic skier at the University of Colorado. And he happened to be a very, very good college football player as well. And was a wide receiver that was probably going to be a fringe NFL wide receiver. Well, bottom line is, he had some endorsement deals with some ski companies because he was a world-class skier. And he had to basically choose between football or skiing. because of some of the NCAA rules and regulations that I thought didn't make a lot of sense. You know, I've always believed if you had a special skill, like all of us, I mean, if you were a computer whiz and you were a sophomore at TCU and Apple wanted to hire you over the summer, they could hire you, they could pay you money, and you could go back to TCU in the fall. Well, if you were a football player, you couldn't do that. And so I think it makes sense. I think it was one of those things that was very well intended. It's like everything else. As adults, we take those things and we screw them up. So what happened to the name, image, and likeness now, instead of saying, okay, I have a Ford dealership, I'd like for Max Duggan to represent my Ford dealership, and I'll give him a truck and then put him on a billboard, all of a sudden it became, well, let's just basically go pay these kids to play football. And so that's when you saw the establishment of collectives and these kind of things that I think are not certainly what was intended, and it seems to be the way these things are going. And now it's for recruiting, and it's gotten a little bit out of control. And that seems to be what typically happens in college football. Even though I think it was well intended, even though I think it made a lot of sense, you know, it wasn't, the way it's turned out hasn't exactly been what we wanted. And so, as I said earlier, though, to me, we have to view that as an opportunity. And the way we can capitalize that on in so many ways here at TCU, I believe, is number one, we have a very active, engaged fan base. So we have several different collectives that many different people have joined. And what that's allowing us to do is to, those collectives now can pay those players for doing community service, for doing public appearances, for endorsing products, whatever the case may be. And so that's what's happening right now. And that's been a really good thing for TCU. And most importantly, it's been a good thing for our players. You know, you think about it, a lot of these young folks, you know, they don't have an opportunity to work in the summer. They don't have an opportunity to work in the spring. They're so busy that, you know, their scholarship check, which is pretty good these days, is about the only way that they have to make any money. So this is a chance for them to do it. So, you know, I think it's a new thing. I think it's a frustrating thing. I think it's a little bit of urban legend in some ways about, you hear these stories about what certain guys are getting paid and all that. A lot of that stuff's not true. Some of it is, some of it's not. It's hard to know what's real and what's not. But I do think it's well intended. I do think that, again, at the end of the day, you know, people are paying the money and going to the games to see the players play. And I think that they ought to be rewarded for that. That's a long answer to a question. Yes, sir.
How many games do you think you'll win this year?
You know, it's a good question. You know what? You know what's funny is typically, and I'm going to answer this as honestly as I can. You know, normally when you're someplace and you've been there for a while, you kind of know the answer to that question. You go, well, you know, the league looks like this, and I think our guys will play like this, and, you know, this might be good, and this would be exceptional, but it's probably going to be a range in between there. When you take over a program, you just don't know. You know, I think like anything else, I haven't been in the Big 12 for a while. You know, the league has really changed since I got out in 2007. It's a much more defense-oriented league than it was. You know, I think people are playing a little bit different style of football in this league than they are some others. You know, it's interesting. I think if you look at last year's Big 12, you know, Baylor was picked 8th in the preseason and they won the conference championship, okay? That is highly, highly unusual. You know, think about the SEC, think about the Big 10, think about the ACC, think about the Pac-10. I mean, when's the last time a team that was picked 8th won the league? You have to go back a long time. I mean, a very long time in a lot of those leagues to find that. And so I think what that shows, our league has tremendous parity. There's really a very fine line between the talent levels. You know, Oklahoma, I think, has been better than everybody else. I mean, I think they've won, you know, 13 of the last 16 conference championships. So Oklahoma's kind of been head and shoulders above everybody else historically, and then, you know, and then everybody else has kind of been below that. And some teams have been up and some teams have been down. But, I think this league is different. I really do. I think that there's probably 6 teams that are good enough to win the championship. And, quite frankly, I'd put us in that group, and I know, look, I'm supposed to be optimistic. That's why I have this job. That's why I'm here. But I think we've got an opportunity to have a good football team. Now, we'll find out soon enough. So much of football is such an interesting sport because, if you walk out and you look at our team, you're going to go, man, you're big and you're fast and you're strong and, but there's just so many little things that make a difference in football games. 2 or 3 plays often out of 250 sometimes, that happen in the course of a game. And so, there's just a lot of little things that can make a difference. And so, we have to get good at those things, special situations, third down, offense and defense, red zone offense and defense. We have to do a good job with explosive plays, creating them on offense, eliminating them on defense. Got to be really good on special teams, just all those things that really will determine how many games we win. But, I'm excited about it. I feel optimistic about it. And, next year, if I come back, I might have a better answer for you. If you invite me back, I may not. Yes, sir. I'll ask one more. Yep. It is weird, yeah. Yeah, I think the powers in being college football are so smart. They said, let's put a team in Piscataway, New Jersey, and a team in Los Angeles in the same conference. Because, USC and UCLA now are joining the Big Ten and with Rutgers. And so, it's only a 7.5-hour flight from Piscataway, New Jersey to Los Angeles. So it makes perfect sense. I don't know. I mean, look, I think, if you ask me, I think right now, TV networks are really driving college football. And how in the world can that be good for anybody? And it's certainly not good for the players. And so, I think at some point, the super conference thing may happen, but I do think we have to have somebody who cares about the game more than they do their own self-interests. And right now, that person is just not out there. And that's what I think makes the NFL unique, and I think it's what makes Major League Baseball unique, and it's what makes Major League Basketball unique, is they all have very strong commissioners. Strong enough to pay the commissioner of the NFL $50 million a year. That's his salary, which is hard to believe. Okay, but his job is to take care of the game. And I think in college football, we need somebody that can do that. Because there's so many different issues and everybody's just worried about themselves. And I think our job should be, let's worry about the young people playing the game and do the very best that we can to take care of them first and then ourselves second. And it seems like that necessarily hasn't been the case for a very long time. And so my hope is that, I think there will be a separation between, teams that are really committed to playing big-time college football and those that aren't. I think that already exists for all intents and purposes. And so, to me, I think it makes sense for those teams to kind of pull away, to say, you know what, we're going to put somebody in charge that can oversee the game and make decisions for us, give them the authority to do that, and, and take the interest of the game first and foremost. So that's my hope. How long that will be, I have no idea. My guess is in the next 5 or 6 years, something like that could very well happen. Okay, well, let me just say thank you for being here. We play Tarleton State, I believe it's September 10th is our first home game. I think it's a 7 p.m. game. And then we play SMU in Dallas. Now, I know most of you know this, but Dallas is only 35 miles from here. And so we would love for you to come over and be a fan that day. Lord knows I'm going to need it. I'm going to need some friends in the stands. So I would encourage you to come out, watch us play Tarleton State, and then go over to Dallas and see us play SMU. And should be a fun team to watch. So I look forward to seeing you all. And it's fun to be in the room. I've had a chance to meet a lot of you, and it's I just want to say thank you for making myself and my family feel welcome this first 7 months, and we really look forward to getting involved in the community and being part of Fort Worth. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Coach Sonny Dykes. I think I speak for the entire Fort Worth community, certainly the TCU community. We're glad you got fired from Cal, and we are delighted to rescue you from those Mustangs. It is a tradition of the Rotary Club of Fort Worth to donate a book to the Fort Worth Public Library in honor of each speaker, and there is a copy of the book plate that will be in your book. Thank you again.
Okay, appreciate it.
I would like to once again thank our sponsor, Orion Healthcare. As an aside, Chris Kelly, founder, managing director, he's a Delta Tau Delta TCU fraternity brother of Mark Maurer. That's how this came to be. He came in from Oklahoma City today, and he brought a few more fraternity brothers with him, so thank you. And Orion Healthcare Advisory, again, provides legal, consulting, and business advisory services to physicians and healthcare facilities. I have a few more closing announcements. Program sponsorships, keep them coming. Mark Maurer, Tran Trong. Dues renewal are in process. If you have not already paid, please connect with Aurora. Be on the lookout for your member survey. We want to hear from you. And another note I'd like to mention, you know, Rotary International is an apolitical organization. We just remind ourselves of these things sometimes. It has served us well trying to take that stance. The organization has survived a couple world wars, numerous geopolitical conflicts, and we're still going at 117 years. So all that to say, we do encourage respectful public discourse. The reason I mention this is that next week's speaker is gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke, and JR is going to lead a discussion with him. We are also in the process, or we've been in the process, the programs committee, of inviting Governor Abbott, because ideally we would like to have, not necessarily at the same meeting, but both candidates. We understand that Governor Abbott has perhaps a much fuller plate. I'm not sure if it will materialize, but nonetheless, next week's meeting is Beto O'Rourke with J.R. Labby doing some Q&A. And with that, this week's meeting is adjourned.
You wanna control
But if I share my secret, you're gonna have to keep it. Nobody else can see this. And it goes like this. Take me by the tongue and I know you. Kiss me till you're drunk and I'll show you all the moves like Jagger. I've got the moves like Jagger. I've got the moves like Jagger. I don't need to try to control you. Look into my eyes and I'll own you with the moves like Jagger. I've got the moves like Jagger. I've got the moves like Jagger.
Prime members, save on crowd favorite shrimp for your cookout